Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Afternoon once again. Sir Gino, are we good to go? Can we start with the
Hello, good
prayer?
afternoon po. Yes, we are good to start.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna pass on the mic to Jebs, our host for this afternoon's webinar.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you to our webinar about our theme, Transforming Food Systems, Youth Innovation for Human and Planetary Earth. It's me again, Jebs, and it's nice seeing some few people, familiar people who have been with us also this morning. And of course, we are gathered here again, once again, to celebrate the youthfulness and to talk about things in order for us to innovate and to strengthen our youth's mission. We acknowledge the presence of our SK Federation President, Honorable Gisela Terizo Mento. Of course, we would also like to acknowledge the presence of our SK officials. We have here from Barangay 1 Poblacion, SK President, Honorable Alfonso Hamora III. We also have Honorable Elmarie Atienza, Honorable Godfrey Tana, Honorable Patrick Albarico, Honorable April Jan Aguinda, and Honorable Bianca Gallo. We acknowledge those. If ever I missed some of the SK chairpersons, please make yourselves be known by reacting hard so that you will be recognized. Of course, for this afternoon, we are very much excited because we have our speaker with us this afternoon. So, as a jumpstart, we request everyone to please pause for a while and let's have our opening prayer. And this will also be followed by the singing of our national anthem.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
All right. Thank you so much. Good afternoon once again. And again, we acknowledge everyone who's been with us this moment. If I cannot mention you all, please know that you're very much welcome and we recognize you one at a time. All right. I know that some of you are very much excited for this afternoon's webinar, but before we proceed with the webinar proper, we would also like to hear a message from three of the most empowering people in our country and in our community. Of course, we'll be hearing one virtual message coming from our Vice President herself. Let's welcome and let's watch her virtual message and her virtual greeting, our Vice President, Lenny Robredo.
Mayong aga sa kabataan ng Carlota City, Negros Occidental. Maligayang linggo ng kabataan sa inyong lahat. Isa't kalahating taon na tayong dinidiinan ng pandemya at hanggang ngayon, ramdam pa rin natin ang mga epekto nito sa mga buhay natin. Kayo mismo, ramdam ito sa patuloy ninyong pag-a-adjust sa bagong modalities ng pag-aaral. Marami sa atin ang nangangamba. Paano ko haharapin ang kinabukasan? Bilang kabataan, ano ang maiaambag ko? Napakalaki ng krisis, saan ba ako pinakakinakailangan? Walang iisa o madaling sagot sa mga tanong na ito, pero ang malinaw, kailangan ma-engage, ma-empower at mabigyan ng landas para makaambag ang bawat Pilipino, lalo na ang kabataang tulad ninyo. Personal ko ito nakita sa COVID-19 response initiatives ng OVP. Mula sa distribution ng PPEs at pagtatayo ng community learning hubs, hanggang sa app-based community marts at libreng telemed service sa bayanihan e-konsulta, karamihan sa mga partners at volunteers namin, mga kabataan. At talagang kapag kayo ang katuwang, ito ang nakikita natin. Laging may naiaambag na bago. Buong buo ibinibigay ang sarili. At laging ibinubuhos ang kakayahan at energy sa isang gawain. Nitong nakaraang taon, naging malinaw. We need more innovators, trailblazers, and change makers, lalo na mula sa hanay ninyong mga kabataan. The world needs more of your dynamism, passion, and creativity to get things done, to reimagine the future and build it. Kung pakikinggan parang ang laking trabaho, pero matatapos lang natin ito kung magsisimula na tayo. At gaano man kahaba yung kailangan pa nating lakbayin, mabe-breakdown natin yung buong biyahe into steps. Ang mahalaga, to take at least one sure step forward, dito at ngayon. Start with the task in front of you. Gawin ang kayang gawin, ibuhos ang sarili, fill the gaps where you can. Be better, go farther, help more people than you did yesterday. Do that every day, multiply that by everyone else in your community, and before we know it, we would have ushered in significant, meaningful change. This is exactly what humanity needs today. People willing to take every sure step forward, however small. People who will put in the hard work to build a future kung saan lahat nasisilungan, lahat natutulungan, lahat naaaruga. Wala akong duda. Bawat hakbang, basta tiyak at nakatuon sa kapwa, mas inilalapit tayo sa kinabukasang minimithi natin. At dahil sama-sama tayong kumikilos, tiwala ako, malalagpasan natin ang anumang pagsubok. Damo nga salamat, mabuhay ang kabataan ng Carlota.
Thank you so much, and we're very much privileged to have been hearing from our Vice President Lenny Robredo, and through the efforts of our SK Federation for reaching out to her as well. And at this time, we will be hearing again another virtual message coming from our National Youth Commission Chairperson and CEO, Yusek Ryan Enriquez.
Isang pagpupugay sa kabataang Pilipino. Lubhang makabuluhan para sa mga kasapi ng SK ang pagdiriwang ng Linggo ng Kabataan. Ang buwan ng Agosto ay sadyang hitik sa mga pagdiriwang sa dahilang bukod sa buwan ng wikang Pilipino ay nakapaloob din ang ASEAN Youth Day, International Youth Day at ang taunang Linggo ng Kabataan na itinakda ng SK Reform Act of 2015. Bilang SK, marahil ay mahalagang suriin natin ang ating mga sarili at balikan ang mga mahalagang yugto ng pamumuno na nagbibigay daan upang maipatupad ang mga nakatakdang plano para sa mga programa at proyekto, pati na ang advokasya. Alam kong karamihan sa inyo ay matyagang sumubaybay at sumunod sa mga lituntunin upang mas maayos maipatupad ang inyong local youth development plan na kinapapalooban ng mga nagpaplanuhang pagtugon sa Centers of Youth Participation. Siyam na sentro yan, kaya walang pwedeng magdahilan kung bakit di nagawa sa kabila ng hamon ng pandemya. Ngayong 2021, ang selebrasyon ng Linggo ng Kabataan ay dapat may kaugnayan sa pagpapalawig ng sistema para matiyak na may sapat na supply ng pagkain. Bilang isang agrikulturang bansa, tuloy ang pagsasaka ng mga lupain upang magamit sa pagtatanim ng palay, mga gulay, prutas at pagkaing halaman na hindi lamang pantawid gutom kundi mapapagkitaan din. Ang mga bagay na ito ay nakasalalay sa inyong mga balikat bilang mga leader kabataan. Ang inyong henerasyon ang magpapasimula ng mga makabuluhang pagbabago tungo sa mas maganda, maaliwalas, kaaya-aya at mapayapang kinabukasan. Ang bawat hakbangin at tagumpay ay dapat ipagpasalamat sa dakilang lumikha. Maging simbolo kayo ng mamamayan na may pagmamahal at paggalang sa watawat, sa mga magulang, sa kapwa, sa umiiral na pamahalaan sa bayan at higit sa lahat ay sa Diyos. Umiwas sa mga tusong mapagpanggap at mapamanlinlang na ang tanging nais ay wasakin ang inyong kinabukasan at magpalawig ng mga ideolohiyang taliwas sa itinakda na nakagisna nating demokrasya. Kayo pa rin ang pag-asa ng bayan at manatiling masipag, patyaga, mapanuri, mapagtanong ng bakit sa bawat nasasaksihang kakaiba sa kapaligiran. Bilang panghuli ay nais ko magbigay pugay sa mga lider kabataan na hindi pinanghihinaan ng loob at determinado sa pagsusulong ng wastong adhikain para sa mas mahusay na kinabukasan sa kabila ng mga hamon ng pandemya. Sa ngalan ng aking mga kasama sa National Youth Commission, dalangin ko ang inyong kaligtasan, kalusugan at proteksyon sa anumang karamdaman, sakuna o kalamidad. Ipagpatuloy niyo nawa ang mga magandang simulain at huwag kalimutang gampanan ang inyong karapatan sa pagboto. Ang inyong responsibilidad na magparehistro sa COMELEC at para sa National ID System. At higit sa lahat ay magsikhay upang mapagbuti pa ang umiiral na sistema ng distribusyon ng pagkain tungo sa mas maayos na sitwasyon sa bansa. Panatiliin natin ang kapayapaan sa isip, sa salita at sa gawa. Ako po ang inyong kakampi, kasangga at kaalyado, Chairperson Ryan Enriquez ng National Youth Commission. Mabuhay ang kabataang Pilipino!
And there you have it again, our National Youth Commission Chairperson and CEO USEC, Ryan Enriquez. And we're down to our last virtual message coming from our SK Provincial Federation President, Pocholo Yovienko.
To the LGU of La Carlota City, SK Federation President Honorable Gisela Jumento, SK officials, staff, kag sa tanan nga pamatanon sa La Carlota City, Happy Linggo ng Kabataan 2021. I would like to thank the Federation for inviting me to give a message today. And also I want to commend your SK Federation President, Honorable Gisela Jumento, for being one of the most active SK presidents of the province. Honorable Jumento, congratulations and thank you for making sure that despite the pandemic, you're still serving your constituents. In this year's Linggo ng Kabataan, as your board member, SK representative of the province, I encourage our SK officials to implement your programs and projects that you have planned for your respective barangays, provided that you should follow all the safety protocols. We should not let this pandemic stop us from serving our constituents. And to the youth of La Carlota, please continue to encourage your fellow youth to attend and participate in the programs of the Sangguniang Kabataan, because these programs are not for us. These programs were planned for all of you. Again, madaming salamat. Happy Linggo ng Kabataan Celebration. Avance, Kabataang Neglense.
Thank you so much to our SK Provincial Federation President, Pocholo Yovienko. Before we go to our our webinar proper, we again acknowledge those who just joined us, those who just came in. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar. We're excited to share the webinar with you. And just a reminder for everyone, we will be um, sharing our video or our sharing a screen of a video about our webinar etiquette so that we will be guided for a smooth transition all throughout our webinar. So we will play a video and we hope everybody will take note of the rules and the procedure of the webinar proper. All right, I hope that made it clear, and I hope that we're all prepared to start our webinar proper. And I hope that this is gonna be engaging and proactive discussion together with our speakers. So right now, it is my privilege to be introducing to you our webinar speaker this afternoon. Our webinar speaker is a youth climate advocate from Bacolod City. He first joined Youth for Climate Hope and volunteered in several other environmental initiatives before finally becoming a member of CORE. Aside from his advocacy for the environment, he also is the co-founder of Tribo Duwag, an LGBTQ plus organization advocating for equal rights for all genders. Furthermore, he is currently an intern for the Commission on Human Rights Region 3 and a civic advocate in multiple citizen initiatives that aim to serve the people of Bacolod City. Friends, youth leaders, let us give a round of applause as we welcome our speaker this afternoon, Mr. Gino Lopez.
Thank you so much, Sir Jebs, and thank you so much to the Sangguniang Kabataan of La Carlota for having me this afternoon. I hope to give an eye-opening presentation about transforming our food systems, especially in the context of the impending climate crisis that's affecting our country. So yeah, hope that this will be an engaging presentation for you all. And yeah, let's make this an engaging and fun one for all of us. So if I may present my screen. So this presentation was made in part with our partner environmental organizations from Manila. And this is actually their source material that we're using right now. So subong ga celebrate gid kita sang linggo sang pamatanon, transforming food systems, innovation for human and planetary health. So this is the theme of International Youth Day 2021, with the aim of highlighting that the success of a global effort will not be achieved kung kita mga pamatanon hindi man mag-intra, kag mag-participate, kag magbulig para ma-sustain, among ini ng mga changes and to bring about what's this awareness and initiatives in saving our planet and in saving our food systems. It has been acknowledged that there is a need for inclusive support mechanisms that ensure youth continue to amplify efforts collectively and individually to restore the planet and protect life, while integrating biodiversity in the transformation of food systems, which means nga sa aton na pag-save sa food systems, hindi gid naton malikawon ang pag-save man sa aton na biodiversity, ang ato ng mga forests, ang ato ng mga seas, ang ato ng mga fellow living creatures diri sa kalibutan. With the world's population expected to increase by 2 billion in the next 30 years, it has become recognized by everyone that simply producing a larger volume of healthier food more sustainably will not ensure human and planetary well-being. So hindi lang ta pwede kahambal, ay sige matanom lang ta mas damo ng mga food, or we'll just raise more livestock, since that other crucial challenges must be addressed, such as mga interlinked na mga problems tackle sa Sustainable Development Goals 2030, which includes poverty reduction, social inclusion, healthcare, biodiversity conversation, and climate change mitigation. Actually, subong wala na tagahambal sa climate change, kahambal kita climate crisis. Kaya ang Pilipinas isa gid sa mga top countries that will be affected by the climate crisis. In fact, ang ginahambal dire ang Pilipinas, very vulnerable ta because we're in the subtropical area, and especially with rising sea levels, there's a huge chance that that a lot of our cities will be underwater. There will be huge displacements, mas kusog ang mga bagyo, mas even linked to stronger earthquakes na ang ginatawag natin sa sa climate crisis na ginatawag natin po. So if I may move on to the next slide. So fixing the broken food system. So slides by Ryan, special thanks to Ryan Anthony Empester who shared this resource material sa core. So next. So amo ni siya ang ginatawag naton nga Sustainable Development Goals. So ang Sustainable Development Goals or Global Goals ini ginhimo sa United Nations General Assembly na intended to be achieved by the year 2030. These are blueprints designed to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. So ginhimo ni siya 2015 kag ini siya ka universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by 2030 all people enjoy peace and prosperity. So for the first time ever, ka-ambitious kids ang ato ng mga goals because gina-balance compared to like mga millennium goals before nga gintukod by 2000. This aims to balance economic, social, and ecological dimensions of sustainable development and place the agenda of fighting against poverty and sustainable development sa same nga level with innovation and economic growth for the first time. So na-identify gid naton nga just because na gamanggaranon abe ang isa ka country doesn't mean nga ang GDP sa isa ka country ga taas, doesn't mean that the people, especially those below, are actually also benefiting from this as well, as we can see na mga big countries like the US, China, and even us na even us na sa Philippines here, Philippines naman niya one of the biggest plastic polluters, pero ang US, China, mga Germany, Russia, these are like huge carbon emissions emitters. So and they really have strong economies, no? Pero ang ila gina-emit na pollution, ang kag mga big companies na affect sa environment, ang ini mga ginahimo sa mga, but they also affect us, especially kita diri sa tropical level. Especially us who live within the typhoon belt, who live within sa equator. The issue of food is very important. So before we tackle all these SDGs, the first thing we need to do is eat. So promoting ecological agriculture and plant-based diet, as what we are campaigning for, contributes to these goals, especially goals number 2, which is no hunger. Goal number 12, which is responsible consumption, and goal number 13, which is climate action. All of our efforts are interconnected. When we help one, we have to help other sectors as well. So, alleviating hunger is not only about feeding more people, but it's also about protecting the environment, ensuring na wala inequalities, ensuring systemic change mismo, and individual change that starts with us. So we'll be able to see what other small steps we can take um, as individuals, aside from systemic change, changing our laws, and urging our government, no, and urging our local government units, local departments to adopt these pro-sustainability, pro-environment na mga measures. So, ang full na ginahambal sang Sustainable Development Goal number 2 is end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. So most developing countries that used to suffer from famine and hunger can now actually meet the nutritional needs of the most vulnerable. Central and East Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean have all made huge progress in eradicating hunger. These are significant achievements in reaching the target set out by the first Millennium Development Goals. Unfortunately, extreme hunger and malnutrition remain a huge barrier to development in many countries. So we can see that despite us having technological advancements in our food production, kung wala taga think of the societal barriers in the first place, hindi ta conquer ang ini na problem sang hunger. So it's more than just creating new technologies. It's about ensuring equality for everyone and ending ang mga systems nga ga-exploit, especially sa aton nga mga most vulnerable sectors, especially ang mga poor and mga indigents. So for the facts and figures of hunger. So after decades of steady decline, the number of people who suffer from hunger, as measured by the prevalence of undernourishment, began to slowly increase again in 2015. So 795 million people are estimated to be chronically undernourished as of 2014, often as a direct consequence of environmental degradation, drought, and loss of biodiversity. Over 90 million children under the age of 5 are dangerously underweight, and one person in every 4 still goes hungry in Africa. So we can see sa ining na chart, ang Asia 513.9 million, ang Africa 256.1 million, while ang Latin America and the Caribbean 42.5 million. So kita sa Asia, we also have a huge chunk of the number of hungry people in the world. So before COVID-19, food security was already on the rise. So halin sang 2014, 23.2% lang of the world was, although that's already big, no? 23.2% of the world were severely or moderately affected by food insecurity. Nagsaka ini sa 2018 na 26.4%. So, ining challenge, mas lalo na lagid kin affect sang COVID-19. So, according to the World Food Program, 155 million suffer from acute hunger, largely due to man-made conflicts, climate change, and economic downturns. So, it's not just the climate that's the problem. It's also our own socio-political problems, especially in war-torn countries. And the most recent example being, right now sa Afghanistan, na overrun naman sa Taliban, and sa Myanmar, na may ara sila sa military coup. So when there is political instability, hunger also tends to rise, which we'll see in the next chart, ang mga countries nga gina-affected sa hunger. So the COVID-19 pandemic is estimated to have doubled that number, putting an additional 130 million, so may 135 million na ta, gidugang pa ni siya 130 million at risk of suffering acute hunger by the end of 2020. Now we're at more than 250 million people. Amo niya ang estimate sa World Food Program. So, ang mga people who face food insecurity, we can see that ang Yemen, which has been war-torn, and suffering as well from like chemical warfare and all that. Kag ang Democratic Republic of Congo, which also has a lot of civil infighting, sila ini ang mga highest gid sa mga people who face acute food insecurity, only to be followed by Afghanistan. And we can see that a lot of these countries actually being shown in this slide here have some sort of political turmoil, which is why sa ato na SDG, if we actually go back here, ara diri ang peace and justice kag strong institutions. Yeah. So importante gid ya ang peace and justice. Importante gid ya ang rule of law para conquer ta sang world hunger. Aside from um preserving the environment. And how can we preserve the environment without peace, diba? So it's all very interconnected, as what we can see, which is why SDGs or the Sustainable Development Goal is very important. So a global pandemic and an economic downturn has affected every corner of the world, with many of the countries most vulnerable to hunger and food security further plagued by a devastating outbreak of locusts that have devastated crops or mga iban pa ng mga environmental agricultural na mga lights. So according to initial predictions, the pandemic and its economic fallout could double the number of people facing acute food crisis, as what was stated earlier. If we do not take significant action now, the acute crisis might set the stage for increasing levels of chronic hunger and related health problems in the long run. So we all know naman our hunger, our nutrition is very much connected to our health. So this can only, especially the COVID-19 pandemic, where our health is very important. If we do not take steps to tackle world hunger, mas na lang may tendencies nga makapandemya patagid in the future and more mga health-related crises. So according to the Food and Agricultural Organization, and a half times enough food to feed everyone on the planet. That's already enough to feed 10 billion people, the world's 2050 projected population peak. But the people making less than $2 a day, or here in the Philippines, mga mga pakyaw nato ng mga workers, usually mga 100 pesos lang or something, na most of whom are resource-poor farmers cultivating unviably small plots of land, cannot afford to buy this food. So, and we can see na a tangled web of finances, government, conflict, and drought. So we have the environment, then we have political turmoil, then we have ang ginatawag nato na financial inequalities. These are barriers that despite having enough food to feed everyone on earth, and even in first world countries where food even goes wasted, sa US mga 40% of all produce actually goes to waste. Imagine how many more people that could have fed not only the hungry in the US but the hungry around the world. So in 2013, more than 17,000 children younger than 5 died every day, most from preventable causes. It is estimated that nearly half of these deaths, 2.8 million deaths every year, were tied to hunger. Most of these kids died not from starvation, but from malnutrition, meaning too long without the right kind of food. So not only access to food is a huge issue that we have to conquer, but access to the right kind of food, ng mga nutritious kind of food, is also a huge part when we talk about transforming and fixing our food systems. So makita natin actually ang global greenhouse gas emissions by sector. Agriculture, forestry, and land use actually plays a pretty huge part in our global greenhouse gas emissions. So it's important na kilalan man ta mag-innovate on how we raise our crops, and you will see later what other steps we can do to fix our agricultural and our land use. However, a huge part of this is energy. Bayan na lang dire sa Negros Island, nakapasta ta sa layi, like rest in peace former governor former governor, pero So coal and oil. No, these are one of the biggest emitters of greenhouse gas emissions. And these greenhouse gas emissions, they not only make the planet hotter, making it very unbearable for us, but they make typhoons stronger. They make droughts more prevalent. They make sea levels rise higher. So ga-affect ni not only ga-displace ni siya tao, pero ga-affect naman ni siya sa ato na agriculture na personally speaking from my family na who's involved in farming na gahambal gid sila subong nga ang pagkalain-lain sa chimpo like very sudden change of climate is not very good. It's not good at all for for our agriculture. So it's important nga kilalan gid taya maghiliusa kita tanan. We need to really unite when we unite all sectors when we speak of deterring climate crisis. Right. So next. So the impacts of our food. So sadly, especially when we speak of agriculture, may ara man ni siya mga impact sa ato na environment. So we have massive resource usage, ang water, ang fuel, ang land, tapos may deforestation where we lose watersheds, lose biodiversity and habitats, and the release of greenhouse gases or GHGs, especially when ang ginatawa ang ato na slash burning kaingin na mga practices. Sadly, there is still some places that still practice that, and also cutting down our forests, which is why biskad ang Negros jutay na lang ang ato na forest subong na mga imagine 70% of our 70% of our land is used for commercial and residential use. Can I ask anyone here na pila na lang ka percent then ang para sa forest? Pila, and anyone type in the chat like ang ilan na guess para sa forest, like pila na lang ka bilog percent sa ato na land ang forest? Anyone who can volunteer? Sir Jebs, ara ka pa ta?
Yes,
Wala.
sir. Acknowledged.
Yes. Can you give us a guess on like, or can you give us a number on like how little na lang do you think our forest cover here in Negros Island is? If 70% na lang ang ato na ang ato na residential and commercial.
Between 23 to 27%.
Salamat yan, sir. That was a good guess, but actually 3 to 5% na lang sang forest ang nabilin diri. 3 to 5%. So diin to nagkadto ang 25%, no, or ang 27% sang land na may ara pat bilin. That's barren land already na wala na tanuman sang trees uli, wala na reforest uli sa ato na island. So we can see na ano gid kanugon, no, na gin cut down ang ini ng mga trees is considered one of the natural solutions to climate crisis. So yeah, then pollution, air, water, soil pollution, which is why ga-advocate gid ang mga climate groups na mag-usar sa mga reusable na mga containers na magsaga use plastic, because plastic takes a long time to degrade. They cannot only be degraded kag matiner lang siya sa ato ng mga suba kag cost siya sa baha, but also this can be consumed by marine animals or land animals, and ang ginatawag na microplastics. So mga gamay-gamay na mga plastics that end up being consumed by our food, by our fish, by our biskan mga livestock naton, na eventually gina-consume naton, especially ang mga seafood, which means actually there was a study, I cannot remember the percentage, but there has been evidence that in most of our seafoods today there are still some fragments of plastics that are found within our food, which is very alarming, no, especially that's not good for us. And ang microplastics hindi ni siya ma-filter, which is why kilalang gid ya palanggaon ang ato na palibot, ang ato na environment when we want to protect our agricultural land, our forest land, and our food security. All right, so next. All right, so what are the environmental impacts of food and agriculture? So we can see that half of the world's habitable land is used for agriculture. 70% of global freshwater withdrawals are used for agriculture. 78% of global ocean and freshwater um, eutrophication, which is the pollution of waterways with nutrient-rich pollutants, is caused by agriculture. And 94% of mammal biomass is livestock. This means livestock outweighs wild mammals by a factor of 15 to 1. Of the 28,000 species evaluated to be threatened with extinction on the ICUN Red List, agriculture and agriculture is listed as a threat for 24,000 of them. So dako gid no ang ato na current ways of doing agriculture really affects our environment, and we can see that a huge part of this has been the expansion of agriculture, which has been one of the humanity's largest impacts on the environment. It's transformed habitats and is one of the greatest pressures for biodiversity. But we also know that we can reduce these impacts both through dietary changes by substituting some meat with plant-based alternatives and through technology advances. Crop yields have increased significantly in recent decades, which means we have spared a lot of land from agricultural production globally to produce the same amount of crops as we did in 1961. So compared to 1961, we need only 30% of the farmland. Actually, it's not more of agriculture na mga ginatanom, it's more of livestock, especially mga cows and especially cows. They need like huge grazing fields, right? Para makakaon sila. And ang cows, it sounds funny, pero ang ilan na utot, ang ilan na fart, their greenhouse gas emissions actually contributes to global warming significantly. So, we'll cover that later. Now, on how we can actually change climate crisis by changing our diet. So with a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase, so makita din natin food emissions could consume most of our 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2 degrees Celsius carbon budget. So ano ini ang 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees Celsius? Dumahambal ka na, that's no different than sa halin sa mag-ulan hasta mag-init. Daw sobra pa gani mga 5 degrees, 10 degrees gani ang ato na mga gin-experience na temperature change. But 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius actually refers to the average temperature around the world. So kung ma-increase lang ni 0.5 degrees Celsius, actually, kung 0.5 lang gani, damo-damo na ng mga cities will be affected, especially mga 1.5 degrees Celsius increase. Scientists project that the Arctic Ocean will become ice-free in the summer about once every 100 years. But if we're people will labi na gid sa Pilipinas nga kita nga archipelago. Mayo lang sila sa mga landlocked kay makalagyo sila inland kitaya di taya maglagyo. Especially for our friends in the in Micronesia, in Maldives na biskan subong na wala patagani kalabot sang 0.5 or 1 degree Celsius nga gaamat-amat na sila evacuate or gaamat-amat na sila gapa inland despite not having that much land kay gaamat-amat na saka ang tubig. So sea rises on average can be another 10 centimeters. Up to 700 million more people could be exposed to climate-related. Once again, with climate crisis means more natural calamities, more wildfires, more droughts, more extreme flooding, possibilities of tidal waves, and even earthquakes. It's connected to stronger earthquakes due to convection currents. Diba, though, oh my God, science class, na, diba may aral na ginatawag na convection currents that are going in and out of our Earth's mantle, ang manangaga move ang tectonic plates. So the more gainit ang ato na planets, the more ga move sini and the more ga pa dugang pa ini na mga linog na gina-experience natin. So the coral reefs that support marine environments around the world could decline as much as 99%, and global fishery catches could decline by another 1.5 million tons. So kung malabot tas 2 degrees Celsius, aside from, living conditions being very unbearable for us, ang aton mismo nga food supply, especially our fishery catches, manubot na gid because ang mga coral reefs, ma-bleach sila, mapatay sila, wala na habitat ang aton mga ginakanon na mga isda or mga seafood, which not only affects livelihood but also affects our, our fish supply mismo. Na as early pa gani as 1970s ang Iceland kag ang UK ga inagaway na for codfish. What more na lang sa future nga majutay na gid ang isda, labi na sa issue subong sa West Philippine Sea nga gajutay na kuno according to our fisher folk, gajutay na gid ila na yung ginakuha 10 times less than what it usually of this political conflict. Nga to na mga prices. Hang on. Right. So next. So this is data from the largest meta-analysis of global food systems to date. We can see here ang pinakadako gid nga culprit is beef, because from land use change as sa farm, sila gid ang pinaka biggest gas emitters from methane, again from the utot of the cows. So overall, animal-based foods tend to have a higher footprint than plant-based. Lamb and cheese both emit more than 20 kilograms CO2 equivalents per kilogram. Pork and poultry have lower footprints, but are still higher than most plant-based foods. And at 6 and 7 kilograms per carbon dioxide equivalents respectively. For most foods, and particularly the largest emitters, most GHG emissions or most greenhouse gas emissions actually come from land use change and from processes at the farm stage shown in brown. So ang mga ginapanghimo ng mga sa farm, dako man ni ang contribute. So transport is actually a very small contributor to emissions. For most food products, it accounts less than 10%, and it's much smaller for the largest greenhouse gas emitters. In beef, from beef herds, it's only 0.5%. So ang farm stage emissions include processes such as the application of fertilizer, both organic and synthetic, and a network fermentation, the production of methane in the stomach of cattle. So combined land use and farm stage emissions account for more than 80% of the footprint for most foods. So survey says 46%. So we're actually huge consumers of meat. 46% of Filipinos eat meat a few times a week, and 7 out of 10 Filipinos eat meat at least weekly. Top 2 reasons for eating meat are is that they're very nutritious, nagdamo protein, tapos ang meat, namit man sa meat. Pero 7 out of 10 say that they will only stop eating meat if they already experience health problems or if the doctor will tell them to do so. So, what's this? Dietary change is actually one of the biggest ways we can transform our food system. It will be hard, but biskan iamat-amat ang bala naton, this will really help. So it is generally considered that the prevalence of a waterborne zoonosis, or ang transmission from animals to humans, is likely to increase in the coming years due to effects of global warming. Vector-borne zoonosis now occur in epidemic from almost on an annual basis, causing considerable morbidity and mortality. Similarly, climate change that leads to warmer and more humid conditions may increase the risk of transmission of airborne zoonosis. So we can see that ang paglaptas, especially right now sa COVID-19, na ang paglaptas ng mga virus, African swine flu, COVID-19, H1N1, these actually come from mga deforestation and other land use changes, intensified agriculture and livestock productions, and illegally and poorly regulated wildlife trade. And then there's climate change as well. And the more that we use, the more that we have these pandemics, the more that we use antibiotics, may antimicrobial resistance. So kailangan gid na in transforming our food systems, we not only save the environment, but we also save our own health, not only on a nutritional level, but also on a health crisis level, ang ato na wellness mismo. So an example here, for like, what's this? About climate crisis. So here we see destroyed banana plantation sa Monte Vista due to Typhoon Bofa, and the Novaleta town in the Philippines experiencing drought because of climate crisis. All these greenhouse gases contribute to climate crisis, but because of climate crisis, there's more frequent occurrence of typhoons and droughts destroying crops, leading to food security issues. So, isa pa gid na issue dili na despite being an agricultural country, our farmers don't get much support from the government. Farming is often looked down upon. Na let's face it. A farmer's income per month on average is less than 2,000 pesos. They don't most farmers don't even own the lands that they farm. A lot of our farmers depend on synthetic fertilizer and pesticides, which affect the health of these farmers and the environment as well. Kailangan man sila mag-borrow money to buy these fertilizers and pesticides, and when their crops are destroyed by typhoons or droughts, na wala na sila maibayad para sa ilan na utang. With all these problems, it doesn't come as a surprise that farmers themselves wouldn't want their children to follow the same path. So we also need to call for support for our local farmers today para mag-save kita sa aton nga food security nga issue diri sa Pilipinas. So everything is interconnected, but we're so disconnected to the earth, we don't see these connections. We're so disconnected to the food that we eat that we don't know where it comes from, what it is, or how it is made. So we see subong ka processed gid ya sang ato ng mga food subong. Like, would you even tell na ini halini siya sa baboy or halini siya sa beef or something like that. So and this also affects us because we have now a double case of nutrition. People who are undernourished, especially mga poor people, so or mga people living below the poverty line. So the Philippines is among the Southeast Asian countries that continue to suffer from the double burden of malnutrition or the coexistence of over and undernutrition among its people. Undernutrition greatly affects Filipino children below 5 years old, while overnutrition is prevalent amongst adults aged 20 to 59 years old. The government cannot solve this all alone. Strong partnerships and open engagement of all stakeholders from all sectors, including the family, are required to give the important role that each play to address the malnutrition problem, especially stunting and obesity. So makita kita sa kulang may 30% sa mga tao underweight, 30% underheight, tapos 8% kulang ang timbang para sa tangkad. And then we see naman sa ini na demographic nga 20 plus na mga Filipinos, 31% are overweight or obese, 22% of females have high waist circumference, and 62% of females have high waist. So may ara kita may the people who don't get enough food and people who are over consuming or not consuming the correct kind of food. So we are more and more eating more westernized, especially in urban areas, mga processed food, and we have more intakes of fats, oil, sugar, syrup, meat, and less fruits and vegetables. Especially subong daw mas barato magbakal sini ng mga processed food compared sa ato ng mga fruits and vegetables. So according to statistics from Greenpeace, 7 out of 10 Filipinos do not meet their dietary energy requirement. 25% of Filipino consumers are eating at 5 fast food restaurants at least once a week. And ang convenience stores are also found to be encouraging Filipinos to dine away from home and usually offering mga oily, fatty, and processed foods. So we can see diri may very high demand for meat in urban areas, and as we saw earlier, meat is one of the biggest polluters kidya when it comes to our climate crisis. Next slide. So aside from this, no, labanin ng mga processed ng mga foods, all of these comes from these imagine all of mga ato na mga Nestle, mga Milo, mga ato na mga tsokolate, mga Chucky, mga Quaker, tanan na lang halin sa mga ini na mga companies. And what's even worse is that these companies are named the most polluting companies in the world. Na Coca-Cola themselves may 13,854 pieces sila of waste across 51 countries. Although subong may ang Coca-Cola World Without Waste, pero kilalan gid kitaya maghimo sang demand for systemic change kag bag-o sa layi nga hindi lang makabasta-basta pollute ang ini ng mga company palibot. So yeah, not only are these the which signed the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's new necessary plastic while reusing or recycling plastic in a circular system and create more sustainable substitutes. Ining nga mga companies were found that they have only reduced its use of virgin plastic by 0.1% from 2018 to 2019. So according to Break Free from Plastic, which is working in partner with Oxfam, ining these multinational corporations are pumping out so much single-use plastics that could double by 2030 or triple by 2050, which would have a devastating impact on human health, ecological systems, and climate change. And ini nga pollution mismo halin diri ma-affect man sa aton nga food security, labi na gid sa mga natural na mga foods daton sa agricultural. So how do we fix our broken system as individuals, aside from calling for systemic change and calling for more laws and stronger implementation from our duly elected officials? So first, wait lang. First, it sounds weird, but yeah, first is of course growing our own food, especially so that we can be self-sustainable. So getting closer to food, growing something, anything, putting herbs in a window or tomato plant in a plot. Now, we all need a reminder that food begins with the plant and turns sunlight into energy. And this also helps us, especially
Please bear with us as we are having technical difficulties at this moment. But before we wait, and while we are waiting for our speaker to be back, we are acknowledging again the presence of Honorable Annette Gatuslao. Honorable Annette Gatuslao is the SK Provincial Federation Vice President and SK President of Himamaylan City. We acknowledge her presence and we thank her for joining us in our webinar this afternoon. And also, we are acknowledging each and everyone here. I hope that you are still okay. May gaka-learn pa man. Information overload, bombarded with so much information. But despite that, we're still very much thankful because may gaka-learn ta, and that's how we grow. We learn from people who are much more seasoned in a one specific area. And if you have questions bala later, if you have clarifications, reserve it for later. We are waiting for our speaker to be back, no? And if ever you wish to ask something, or if ever you wish to highlight something, or it may be an insight, a question, or a clarification, please do it so later because we will be very much welcome to entertain, and our speaker will be very much accommodating to answer your your queries. All right. We have here, of course, the SK chairpersons of the barangays, of each barangays. I believe we have still Barangay Uno Alfonso Hamora. All right. We are back. Our speaker is back. We continue with our webinar. All right. I'm giving back the floor to our speaker.
Hello, sir. Hello, everyone. Sorry, gid na disconnect ko. Gahambal-hambal lang ko gali, tapos wala na ang internet din eh. So, yeah, gid na restart lang ang connection. Pasensya gid everyone. Don't worry man nagtapos na ko. Balo ko na kadamo gid sa ginawakal ko no. But yeah, alright, ito sa solutions for the solving food insecurity. So, isa sa mga growing our own food, especially, kung may sa ining pandemya na ang iban may pa oras na mag-work from home, or what's this? Or I know not everyone really has the time, but it's a good way na in the unlikely event na may mga food insecurity or food shortage, it's great to have your own backup at home. So next, buying local. So kilalan man ta mag-support our own local farmers kay makita naton na what's this, in order for us to secure our own food supply here in the Philippines, kilalan na ang ini ng mga farmers mahatagan sang enough income man to sustain themselves. And ang ini ng mga dako na mga companies, I mean, not disparaging or not insulting naman ang mga McDonald's and all that, but these multinational companies, they don't need our money as much as our local farmers and our local restaurants, our local businesses need our money. And ang nami sini kay galesen ang greenhouse emissions because what's this? Although transport accounts for very little, ang na jutay lang na ma-save naton sa halin sa from not flying our food in from other countries or from not importing our food. Wait lang kita, sorry. Sorry, nag sa piyak. There we go. So, eat more fruits and vegetables. So, 2003 World Health Report estimates that 1.7 million deaths worldwide is due to low consumption of fruits and vegetables. You don't have to be vegan or vegetarian, but health experts encourage a more plant-based diet for a healthier you. Eating more organically grown fruits and vegetables and lessening meat consumption are not only good for your health, you're also helping the environment. Plant-based diet is ranked as the number 4 climate change solution overall. The third one is wasting less food, which we'll cover later. So, there, yes. So we can see here nga dako kitya ang ma-reduce up to 48% na reduction sa ato na personal greenhouse gas emission kung ma-plant-based diet lang ta. So it's a really, really huge help if we consume more fruits and vegetables compared sa ato ng mga baboy, compared sa ato ng mga pork. Although, it's not bad naman to consume it once in a while, but more so, let's stick to plant-rich diet. And we can see that if all of us contribute, maka-reduce ta 63% sang ato na greenhouse gas emissions. So imagine sa aton lang na pagpili kung ano aton ginagkaon, wala lang tagabulig sa ato na kaugalingon nga we can live longer, we can be more youthful, way longer, but also we are saving the environment. And we are saving the environment for our future generations para sa mga para sa kinabukasan pagid ng mga pamatanon, di ba? And fully we can, if it's fully plant-rich diet, which is almost impossible, Now we can reach a 101% reduction. And we can see that if all of us do even just do a partial plant-rich diet, we can reach the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit. Nga hindi pa gid malain, hindi pa gid baskog ang mga effects ng climate change sa aton. So say no to food waste. Ini. Although, ga think ta na these are madulot man ni siya, mabalik man ni siya sa earth. Pero especially that we've covered no na earlier ang problems ng world hunger, na importante gid nga hindi ta mag-waste ang food, since that it's also a form of waste that also affects that also affects our environment. And 30% of the world's food is wasted. And like what I said earlier, mga 40% of produce, especially sa mga Western countries, are almost not consumed, kag ginahaboy lang. And if you can't consume your food, ipanghatag. That's just why we had community pantries, right? Na give what you can, take what you need. So amo ni siya ng mga simple ways naton na malikawon ang food insecurity. And lastly, vote with your wallet, which is very similar to eat local, but for example, na bakalta sa mga companies that are, if we have the capacity, no, since that not everyone has the capacity, but if you have the capacity, let's try to buy organically grown na mga stuff, na mga food, mabakalta sa mga local na mga food, mabakalta sa mga halin sa mga businesses nga ga-practice gid sang environmentally healthy na mga methods, especially sa ilan na agriculture, especially sa ilan nga livelihood, like range-free, for example, ng mga meat. Although that's very hindi pa gid na available dito sa Pilipinas, but by researching, it's a bit time consuming, but if you research nga nga babakal pa ko ni sang ini nga nesne na kadamo sila ginahaboy sa plastic sa ocean, na may ara man diri ang local nato na mga fresh milk halin sa I'm not sure if San Carlos may ara din mag-produce ang local milk, na why not support that one instead, no, na less which helps them get more income and lessening the chance no sang poverty diri sa ato na country. So amo na ang core. I'd like to, before I end my presentation, kung may aram man kamo diri interested na be a part of our organization, ang core Children Optimization for the Revitalization of the Environment. So this is the organization I'm representing. Kami amo gini namon ginatuyog na ga-educate sa mga bata, and not just like mga teenagers, mga pambatan-on gidya, especially from 9 to 12 years old, since that we believe it's better to build up a kid than it is to repair an adult. So we have mga various initiatives in reaching out to kids, in making them more aware about our environment, para sa future in whatever profession they go into, they will always have our mission is to create a heart, or building a community of environmentally conscious children for the children of their children, the nation, and God. So ang vision namon na ang Philippines mahimo isa ka pungsod na may communities of environmentally conscious children in action, because our simple actions of choosing more plant-based diets, not buying from mga imported, but not buying from mga multinational big companies, but buying locally, or mga disposing our waste properly. Ini nga mga gamay-gamay na mga hakbang gabuligid ini para mag-secure sang aton environment, and in turn secure sang aton na food security. And ang mission namon to prepare children in building an environmentally conscious community by upholding values of commitment, communitarianism, simplicity, integrity, and love. So may kami ni ng mga services nga Ecological Saturdays Initiative, wherein gakadtugid kami sa mga communities. Ang amo na partner community subong sa Bacolod is, some of them are Barangay 27, kag Puro Crossing 8. Subong modular na lang namon ang ginatudloan, kay obviously may pandemya kag hindi kagwa ang mga pamatanon. But sabtang summer pa, kag wala man sila maayo ginihimo sa balay, may ginatuon man sila about the environment, about how to save the environment. And and in turn, gabulig man sa ilan na mga pamilya create better ways, na hindi sila magsagay haboy-haboy lang kung diin-diin, or pwede sila ka create their own initiatives like the Project to Bian na bring their own containers, which is what we'll show here. I wait, wala din na-include. Yeah, Project to Bian, where we gave water bottles for children sa ini ng mga lugar para hindi sila sagay bakal sa mga water bottles. Court to School campaign, where we partner with schools. Kagamhanan sang Katilingban, where we invite speakers from different environmental advocacy speakers to teach us even more ways of saving our environment, and bamboo coin banks that we donated to the children na sa inyo ng mga respective barangays, for example, nga makahimo sini nga mga initiatives, which also include coastal cleanup, which also include tree planting, by the way. Nga feel free. We really look forward to partnering with local communities, especially ang mga sangguniang kabataan, kay dira gid maka-affect kita, makabuli kita sa mga pamatanon directly. And ang palisang ginhambal ni Rizal, the youth is the hope for our future. So yeah, that pretty much ends my presentation. I hope you guys learned a lot. And yeah, always remember kita, no? Nga everything is interconnected. Now, when we save our environment, we save our food systems. We save everyone in the world. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gino Lopez. Indeed, the only way to transform the food system is to innovate. And when we innovate, we break the cycle. Thank you so much for challenging us to innovate and to break the cycle by making sure that we prioritize local products, and of course by being able to look after our environment at all times. At this juncture, before we open the floor for the questions, I would like first to take this opportunity to again give appreciation to our speaker, Mr. Gino Lopez. And of course, he will be receiving a certificate which will be given by your SK Federation President, Honorable Gisela Therese Jomento.
Okay, Sir Gino, thank you so much, Gid. And we will be giving you a certificate of recognition from the SK Federation of La Carlota City. Certificate of recognition is awarded to Mr. Gino Lopez, Secretary for Creatives and Publicity of CORE, for dedicating his time, expertise, and efforts by serving as guest speaker for the webinar entitled Transforming Food Systems, given this 23rd of August in the year of our Lord 2021 during the Linggo ng Kabataan held at Carlota City, province of Negros Occidental, Philippines. Signed, yours truly. So, sir, thank you, Gid. Thank you so much.
Salamat Gid as well for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to speak in front for you guys, and hopefully mapalapnag pa ni naton, no, ang ini na mga natun-an naton this afternoon. Salamat. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Mr. Gino Lopez, for saying yes to our call to be our speaker again this afternoon. I hope you also learned from our silence, Charot. Anyways, we'll be opening the table now for questions, for clarifications. If you have questions, if you wish to ask clarifications or insights na naka-capture or naka-highlight sang ato na informative na talk, please do so. If you're shy enough to open your microphone, you could actually type your questions on the chat here on Zoom. Pero if you're confident enough to ask directly to our speaker, then open your microphones, and as much as possible, if you could open your cam as well so that you will be recognized. All right. You have any questions? Is there anything you wish to add? Or are there any things you wish to be highlighted? Ang aton ng mga SK chairpersons, wala question. Is the silence, or does it mean that the silence means no further questions, or wala na mati? It could either go, both ways. Oh, sige. SK Chairperson of Barangay 1, Honorable Alfonso Hamora III. Are you still there? Pakigalaw ng baso. Gaklase guro si RN. Gaklase guro ang aton RN. How about the SK Chairperson of Barangay RSV, Miss Honorable Bianca Gallo? Are you still there? Hala, wala ko signal or wala gid kami gahambal. Charot.
Ang mga chairman bala gawya-uya pa na kabalo ko damo gina sila sang gusto i-add man kag ang gusto nila i-question but gawya-uya pa sila ho.
True. Pero I think that because if we're to look at the talk and the presentation of our speaker, it's very informative and everything you can actually grab it now on the presentation and it's clear for my opinion. It's very clear and very substantial that you need not to ask for clarifications because everything has been presented right on the presentation. And I feel like most people could relate to me on that. I don't know if the feeling is mutual. That's why no further questions. Sige, if there's no further questions, and I hope that made all the sense. All right. Sir Gino, thank you so much. Yes, please send the presentation so that we will be guided later on. All right. Of course, to our participants, you can see a link on our chat. Please access the link and fill it out so that you will have your certificates. Right now, I'm requesting everyone to please, if you could open your cameras because we will be having our photo op. We'll be having our photo op. If you could open your camera, please open your camera because we'll be having our photo op. I understand that most of our SK chairpersons are outside their homes because, they're doing some SK related stuff. Oh, if you could open your camera, please open your camera. Pero sa mga hindi, because unstable ang connection and stuff like that, we understand and we still thank you for joining us.
Show your full faces. Hi, Press Annette. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Press. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Jebs. Nice to see you. Good afternoon, Gino.
And we acknowledge again the presence of Honorable Annette Gatuslao. All right. We ask for a cue from our media team. Who can cue to take a screenshot?
Jebs, naka-i-on tagoro na aton camera.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Please on your cameras. All right. On the count of 3, smile lang ha. Plastic lang, tas smile lang, look lang sa camera. Basta may ma-picture lang. 1, 2, 3. Okay. May na-picture or wala tanay lang? Okay na. All right. All right. You can turn your cameras off if you want to. Pero kay manug-ad naman lang ta, you can just turn it on lang as stay. All right. To finally end our webinar, we again give this floor to our SK Federation President, Honorable Gisela Jomento.
Thank you, Jabs. I would like to thank Sir Gino. Sir, thank you so much, Gid, sa imong lecture this afternoon. It is very timely and relevant, no? Especially we're in the middle of pandemic. Nga kita need ginaton mag-conserve sang energy and to protect the environment, and also hindi man naton dapat pag-i-take for granted ang aton nga food nga gina-prepare sa aton, no? Kay like sa mo kagina, there are people nga malnourished nga ginakulang sa food, and we are here kitaya we're fortunate enough to have enough food no nga makaon sa isa ka adlaw. And if one of the advocacies of the SK is to give mag-help gidya, especially to those who are in need of our help. So I am so happy, Gid, and gi kami na learn, and we are so grateful to have you here. I am so also honored nga nag-join sa aton si Honorable Gatuslao. Such an honor, Honorable Annette. Thank you, Gid, sa pag-participate. Kag sa support mo sa amon di sa La Carlota kag di Board Pocholo. Thank you, Gid. And sa mga SK chairpersons, we still have a week-long activities, and I'm so excited man sa magatabo pa in the coming days. And thank you, Gid, and I hope everyone is having a great day. Thank you, Sir Gino. Thank you, Gid. Jabs, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. Padayon kita. Stay safe, everyone.
Stay safe, sir. Thank you.
Miss Press, ang certificates tagali ang link kaaralan da.
Yes, reminding again everyone to please access the link provided on the chat. Please fill it out so that you could have your certificates later on for attending our webinar. And also encouraging and reminding everyone for the remaining days, we have series of webinars. Just access the webinars on your SK chairpersons, and we wish to be with you again on our next session tomorrow and our next webinar tomorrow. Thank you again so much for joining us, and I hope that you have all learned something new this afternoon. God bless and stay safe, everyone.
Salamat. Halong.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Press. Thank you.
Bianca, Renz, Sir Dennis, thank you so much, Gid, sa pag-facilitate sa aton webinar. Thank you. See you tomorrow.